Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to another episode of Pep Talks, and I am truly honored with my next guest here. We've got Eilish, a superstar in the making. Well, she is a superstar in the AFLW. And to get things started, just to give you a bit of an insight, but intro, because you definitely deserve one. Eilish is a Chief Operating Officer of Playfair, Visa and Immigration, and co-founder of Playfair Advisory. Could you give us a little snippet of your business?
So Playfair Visa, it's been around for over 35 years, and we help people come and settle and move their life to Australia through visa and migration support. And then Playfair Advisory is sort of the additional arm of that, where we provide, business advisory, financial support and things like that to help them not only just move here but succeed here and prosper here.
Yeah, wow, love that. I'm looking forward to diving a little bit deeper into that later in this podcast. Now, she combines strategic thinking, business development, and operational leadership to help organizations navigate growth and change. And you also have another business?
Yeah, so I own a small business with another business partner of mine, which is in the hospitality space up in Sydney. So it's a little cafe bakery up there, which
Wow.
flourishes. Really good croissants. So check it out, the Cook and Baker.
Awesome. There we go. We're plugging that right in. We'll make sure we put the details there. Away from the boardroom, Eilish has forged equally an impressive career as an elite athlete. She's competed in the women's AFLW, also represented Richmond, and currently with North Melbourne. Yes. Was part of the winning team, obviously, of the Premiership last year, 2025. And also, for those that don't know, she was also best on ground. Man, tell us about that.
Yeah, I think it was surreal. I've never won a premiership at any level in my whole sporting career. So to do that at the highest level in such an incredible team and as part of such an incredible program was amazing. And then to just be able to share it with like my people, my friends and family who have supported me throughout my whole life was like just one of those memories that you're going to cherish forever.
Now, as I said earlier, I'm looking forward to diving a little bit deep into that one as well. So her ability to perform under pressure and to lead a high-performance environment has become a defining characteristic across sport and business. And that's something that has really kind of resonated with me in terms of your leadership quality. And that's something that I feel needs to be shared, because I'll definitely take a lot from it, but also our listeners as well. And the millions of followers that we have that are out there. Thanks, Mum, Dad, and my siblings. Eilish's story within elite sport, entrepreneurship, executive leadership, her journey provides valuable insights into navigating pressure, which is something that I love, building high-performing teams, balancing multiple careers, creating opportunities, and pursuing excellence across every arena of life. Like, wow. Welcome to the podcast.
It's a pleasure to be here, Peps.
Like that's when I was actually just obviously saying that, as well as reflecting about who I was about to interview, I was like, far out. My intro will be like just one paragraph.
Oh, I do not agree with that.
Like that was it nice to hear that? Because you probably never get time to reflect and go, wow, I've actually achieved these things.
Yeah, it's sometimes a bit, I guess, not overwhelming, but we all have a little bit of imposter syndrome, don't we? Sometimes. So. It's nice to, I guess, hear it, but, also recognize that there's a lot of people that get me to there and a lot of people that support me every day. And, my connection with you and meeting you last year is a big part of that, a part of my AFLW journey, and also just, finding someone with a similar ethos to me. You inspire me in what you do. So it's just nice to, it's nice to reflect, but also, be thankful for all of the parts that make up that puzzle, I guess.
And that's very kind of you to say that. And honestly, I'll give you $20 later for that. But yeah, look, honestly, that's something that's that I really am inspired by, and something that's your kindness, but also how you view leadership. And that's something that's that was the whole purpose behind Pep Talks was to cast and put a light on those leaders that are uplifting others, because we know that there's two parts of leadership. There's obviously growing yourself, and the main part of leadership is uplifting others. And that's where you and I resonated a lot. Outside of an athlete, and that's where I feel your story is going to be really powerful today. So I can't thank you enough for your time. I know you're a very busy soul. I know you got lots of fans out there, and for you to give up your time to be here, we're really grateful. But, before we get started, I just want to say a massive thank you to everyone that's put us here, my man Padula and Sam, behind the mics, but also the screens. I can't thank them enough for this opportunity. I'm one of those guys that gratitude is very important in my culture. It takes you places. And, I feel that's a simple little acts of service or act in life that actually people forget. So always thank people that always take you to places. Now, let's get started, my friend. Now, you've just come off an amazing season. Like, honestly, before we put it to you, like, that was the first AFLW game or AFL game I've actually ever watched from start to finish. I think it was the first time I was actually, like, fangirling.
Oh, I'm blushing.
But it was just, like, how are you feeling after the season that you just had?
Yeah, I think it's kind of surreal. It's been nice. We have quite a big off season, so there's a lot of time to reflect and be appreciative for it. But also take, I guess, a lot of the learnings from that. It was great. The season ended in such a way, and we did win a premiership, and to have those individual accolades as well. But if I reflect on the whole season, it wasn't perfect. It was a bit of a mixed bag. I spent a lot of time of it injured, so. I guess to reflect on what I did well or what I could do better, and sort of refine my process and take those learnings into this next season has been really big for me. And then also, obviously, in that sort of final game, we were discussing this. Like, you feel like you're in flow state, and sometimes as an athlete, especially a young athlete, you hear that and you're like, oh yeah, whatever. Like, people are just they're dramatising, but I genuinely felt that. So, like, what were the things that I did as part of that process to get me there, and then how can I replicate them and make my delivery as an athlete more consistent? Yeah,
I love that. Could you give us a bit of an insight in terms of what you reflected that you're really proud of? It could be like anything. Like,
for me, I think, especially as an older athlete, and we were just sort of discussing this, prior off camera, is I might not necessarily be able to have the training load that other younger athletes have. I'm almost 34,
still young.
yeah, still young. But my greatest muscle is my mind. So, like, how can I make that my competitive advantage? So for me, leading into that game, a lot of it is around like mindfulness. I'm a big meditator, so making sure that my mind is really sharp, I'm really clear, I feel really crisp. I've got a lot of energy coming into that game, so my central nervous system's a lot lower, so that when I need to, like, I can really tap into those energy reserves. That was a huge thing for me. And then if I'm not training as much, what can I be doing with my mind to help sort of supplement the training that I do? So for me, a lot of that's like around visualization, and because I had I think I was about 6 weeks off injured leading into the last two games of the season, so the prelim final and the grand final, I really tapped into doing a lot of visualization, and I think that really helped maintain my skills development and ensure that when I got out there, like, I wasn't I wasn't dusty. Like, I could execute in those moments. So yeah. They're probably the big things.
I mean, getting to the opportunity to observe you, getting to know you, I felt like I saw you in that part where you were off. But what kind of, I guess, what I saw in you was just your urgency to stay positive, which I was like, I was loving your attitude just to know that, cool, you're out for now, but there were so many things you can do, and you should be really proud.
Yeah.
Like, the fact is that you're running businesses and you're being a professional athlete, you have a partner to be there for, and then your own health. I think it's something you should be really proud of.
Yeah, and I don't think, like, we nail everything, but one thing that I think meditation has taught me, but also, you touched on my partner, and she's from, similar culture to you, like Maori heritage, and she's just so present. And that, like, presence is so important in sort of everything we do. We live in this such a fast-paced world, but being present and being in that moment, especially when you're injured, it's not like, am I going to get back for the game? Like, am I going to be able to play again? What's this season looking like? There's so much uncertainty. And really, like, all I needed to focus on was, like, that next training session. I've got to show up, I've got to execute whatever it is in that next training session to be that first building blocks to getting back to there. So that's a huge one for me, just trying to be as present as I can in the moment in everything that I do. And that, I think, is also what has really served me well and is a good lesson for, like, other people.
Yeah, I love that. In terms of like you're talking about being a more mature athlete, so you've obviously have done a lot of time in terms of finding things that's going to uplift you and help you. You mentioned the nervous system, obviously down regulate. Where did this all come from? Like, did you learn this on the way? Have you?
Absolutely learnt on the way. I think I'm the type of person I learn by doing. So, which also means like you have a lot of mistakes along the way. But I don't necessarily view them as mistakes. Like they're things that have helped me refine my process of what works for me, and what works for me could be very different to what works for other athletes. So, I am the type of person, I am quite busy. I've got a lot of things on, and if I overdo that and I don't create like space for me to down regulate, I end up getting sick and in bed for like a week. So it's just finding and what works for you and then building that into your process and being like quite regimented in that. So that's probably like, big learnings for me. The other one is obviously there's only so much load I can do. So I do have some issues with soft tissue, hamstring issues over the years. So listening to the people around me who are subject matter experts in that area. So North Melbourne is so lucky. I've got a great high performance team, great medical team, great coaches. I need to trust that the plan that they come up with for me is, they've done the work, it's data backed, it's care orientated. And I know that's a lot of the way of how you work. And I need to trust that that process is going to work and buy into that. It doesn't mean that you don't ask questions. It doesn't mean that, it has to make sense to you as well. But I think as an athlete, that's a great part of being part of that team, because you can rely on the skills and knowledge of people around you and really buy in and trust that. And, that, takes that load off, right?
Yeah. No, I love that. And that's something that I really, that I love about you is that, you have every element of a leader. I use the acronym of AURA, so not spelled AURA, I use ORA. So, it's just like taking ownership, being reliable and being accountable. So that's something that I really I see in you, and that's why I feel really inspired when I hear your journey. And so I guess it kind of ties into finally my first question. Now we're almost halfway through the podcast time. Take us back. Like, tell us the experiences that you've had as someone that was quite young to be who you are today.
Yeah, I think like I've had a long journey. I wasn't drafted as an athlete, a professional athlete till I was 29. So long journey, like lots of, I've made lots of mistakes along the way. Like I made lots of choices, that, I wouldn't say that like I regret them because it's all part of the journey, but they weren't necessarily things that like I'd made sacrifices to become a professional athlete, but it's all part of the tapestry of who I am. So I was also very lucky. I grew up in a very privileged environment. I had a lot of freedom and a lot of opportunity. My parents were both, I guess, my mum was an entrepreneur. She started her own business. She's run that business for over 35 years. And my dad was also a bit of an entrepreneur. He was an actor and, did a bunch of different things. So, I was really lucky to grow up with great role models in that sense, but also just to have like the freedom to most of my time outside of school was playing sport and, running around on the driveway with my brother who, was probably my training buddy at the time. More competitive than collegiate, but I guess that, that honed a lot of skills in me that I now reflect on, and it kind of makes me the athlete I am today as well. So I was very lucky in that sense to have a lot of opportunity and to be educated and to be challenged in a lot of various different ways. But yeah, it's I went to quite a very academically focused high school, and at that stage in my life, in Sydney. In Sydney, I grew up near the beach in Sydney, so I spent most of my time swimming, playing soccer, touch football, every sport, skiing. I did every sport and I loved it. So I had good mix. But then I went to a quite academically focused high school, and at that stage there wasn't really a lot of commercialization, well, not really any commercialization of women's sport outside of the Olympics. And I didn't really see being a professional female athlete as something was a prosperous career path. And I also think by that time I was quite a naturally gifted young athlete, but by the time I got into my teens, I also acknowledged that you couldn't just sail through on your natural athletic ability. It needed to kind of be paired with work ethic. And to do that, you needed to dedicate a lot of yourself to it. So for me, the opportunity cost of sort of dedicating myself to being a professional athlete was missing out on maybe prospering in like a business sense or things like that. And it didn't really, I guess, make sense to me to pursue that at that time. So yeah, I ended up going down the path of like doing uni. I really wanted to become a consultant because I loved that like problem solving approach. And it was also, I think, something at that time that was really valued by the circles that I was growing up in. And I think there's like a good lesson in that of, you know, I don't do things for the sake of pleasing other people or what you think other people value. It's like, what do you enjoy and what do you thrive at? So yeah, I reflect, and there's a lot of lessons in that, but it did mean that it was a little bit of a longer journey for me, I guess, to become a professional athlete.
No, I love it. I mean, you know, every story has a start, right? And, you know, I love that you touched on being privileged. And I guess you pretty much answered all my questions for today.
Just mull them all into one.
Yeah, so that's the end of
we had some catching up to do because this is the long intro.
No, I mean, it just goes to show that, you know, it's not easy to get to where you are. You've obviously challenged yourself. You put yourself out there. I just want to touch on, you mentioned privilege. You mentioned your parents are entrepreneurs. Could you tell us like something that you've taken from them? Like, you know, something that's you still do today? Yeah,
so I think I've learnt from both my parents that there'd be different things. My mum started Playfair. Her name's Petra Playfair. It's her last name, which works really well, right? In the sense of she started as a social worker and she wanted to help people, which resonates, right? Yeah. And then I guess through various different things, she ended up in migration, and it wasn't necessarily something she was incredibly passionate about at the time, but like her passion grew as she developed this business. And I always say it was, you know, the first child. Like there's three of us. There's Playfair the business, there's my brother Jack, and there's me. And I think like I see how hard she works and how dedicated she is to that. She's with like almost 70 and she's the hardest working person I know. But I also see the way she marries that with other parts of her life. You know, like she might be very hardworking, but she's also got a joy for life, and she doesn't let that kind of, you know, that the stresses of that job sometimes ruin all the other wonderful things she's got going on in her life, and her like joy and her joy for life and her happiness is it's always still flourishing. So I think I've learnt that from my mum, the ability to like have that balance but also have that drive. And then my dad's very kind of easygoing, charismatic. He's a great talker. He will literally talk to anyone. He's like the kind of person you sit down at a restaurant and he'll have a 20-minute conversation with the person who's serving you. He'll find out like their like brother-in-law's name, where they're from. He'll start speaking Italian to them, you know, like he's just a massive people person. So I think that like connection with people and that like want to know people, I really get that from my dad. He's just, he's got that energy.
Yeah, I love that. It's cool how, you know, you start mirroring a lot of your role models when you're young. Like, you know, for me, my parents, man, they were just such hard workers. Like, you know, nothing came to them easy. But for me, growing up, you know, that was able to be transferred to my siblings, you know, just like, you know, if you want something, you have to work super hard for it. Yeah. And so, you know, seeing, you know, having a, you know, being grateful to have parents who believe that hard work gets you places, that's definitely something that I take everywhere with me. And my parents are very proud Christians as well, so it's knowing to be grateful for things.
Absolutely.
So I feel like that's a big anchor of who I am, but also just always serving. So the whole hard work thing, it's just more when you have an opportunity to do things, make sure you make the most of it, but you know, take people with you. So I got to see a lot of the leadership qualities where for them it was just natural for them. Yeah. They just knew that they love people, they love serving. My parents always invited people, and that was something that I really didn't understand as a young one. Like, you know, my parents in our culture, all the kids do all the jobs in our Samoa way. And when you're young, you're just like, you're told what to do. And that's just, no ifs, buts. It's just go do the cooking, cleaning,
Yeah.
which is, you know, when you're young, you're just like, okay, cool. Yeah, it is what it is without more guests. But it was just like the amount of people we used to invite over just to share a meal, break bread and share stories. It wasn't until I got older I realized far out, like my parents are, you know, they're very rich in heart.
Oh, absolutely.
And I feel like for me, that's something that it's something that's allowed me to operate the business the way it is. Like for me, it's not about money. It's actually about acts of service, bringing people together, inspiring people. And that's where I love the concept of business where you're challenging. It's not always about money. It's actually trying to inspire others. And so that's where for me, like, my parents were massive anchors in terms of work ethic. Nothing came easy. Like you actually got to work. And
that sense of like community and sharing it as well, right?
Yes.
Like you might achieve all of these things, but if you can only share that with yourself, it's not going to be, you know, particularly fulfilling. And I guess like that's what makes team sport so wonderful, right? You know, and even even in individual sport, you know, you see Ash Barty get up there or someone like that, and she'll talk about her team, right?
Yeah.
She's out there on the field, but it's a team. You get to share that with all of your people, and that's what makes it so special.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, definitely. Like everything's always to do with service, and that's where, you know, meeting people like you've got the same heart. You know, everything's always acts of service, and then, you know, in my culture, you know, there's a real special proverb that we use. It's "Oalele pule ole tautua," which means the path to leadership or to the top is through service, and so it's cool using that. And I guess a modern society where it's kind of quite rare to do that because in the context of business these days, it's kind of like you get to the top, you chill.
Yeah.
But it's just like, leaders of today good leaders actually lead.
Yeah.
Like and you're starting to see the shift now. You know, people, you know, got to make people actually stay into an environment where they can prosper, they feel heard, and, you know, it's trying to get everyone to feel that.
Yeah.
But, you know, it's been cool because I've enjoyed the challenge where coming into Australia where it's not quite that culturalistic kind of thinking. So, you know, I've enjoyed the art of like working on my communication skills, trying to find people that can help inspire others as well. So, but, you know, it's not like one of those things, success is not done alone and you've got to take people with you. So people like yourself inspire me, and you need to get people who are on the same kind of periphery so that we can actually...
Yeah, and that reciprocity, right? As you said, once you get there, that's when you give back.
Big time.
Because you didn't get there by yourself.
Yeah, and that's where you and I connect, and that's where, you know, it's, you know, we need more leaders like that is pretty much what I'm trying to say.
Yeah.
And so that was the whole purpose of this podcast. Yeah.
So, well, you're inspiring me. Let's hope you're inspiring some other people. Yeah.
Now, you've obviously mastered two things, being an athlete and a business owner. How did you do the two?
I wouldn't say that I've mastered. Let's start with that.
Okay.
Because it's all still learning, and you know, there's times where sometimes I'm like, God, you know, I'm not doing this that well, but I think that's all part of it, right? Like you don't get to the top and you chill. You keep continuing to try and improve and try and be better. And you know, sometimes they might be big jumps, and sometimes they might be, you know, tiny little squiggles forward. So I wouldn't say I've mastered either, but I guess a big part of that is there's a lot of like shared learnings across both of them. I'm a big believer in you know, not being able to do everything myself. So surrounding myself with, you know, people that inspire me and that I can learn from, and, you know, recognizing, having that awareness of these are my strengths, but I also have a lot of weaknesses. So the people who surround me should probably complement that, and then that's a good opportunity for me to also sort of learn and I guess turn those weaknesses into strengths if I can. So I think that's a big part of sort of my ethos around that and how I, you know, manage both of those areas. But yeah, they're more like processes than specific things that I do in those spaces.
Yeah, okay, that's interesting. If we just go back to your season last year, I mean, juggling two businesses and then training to be an athlete, what was the schedule look like for you?
It's really busy. I probably would say, and this is something I've changed this year, I would have worked maybe 7 days a week last year at times. And I reflect and I'm like, there were negative impacts as that, because maybe that contributed to me getting injured, because it might not be the physical load, but there's a mental load there. And, you know, our body's just one, you know, the mental load factors into your body. Your body holds stresses in different ways. So for me, a big learning this year is really carving out that downtime for myself. So now I have Sundays free. That's my day to just do no work, no personal admin. And then I also take 2 afternoons off a week to go and do some recovery, and that's also my downtime. So just, making sure that that's my clear headspace to just tap in. I can read, I can meditate, I can do what I want, but just to make sure I can sort of down-regulate. Outside of that, I think it's also just you've got to be quite organised, but then also I'm present in the moment of what I'm doing. So if I'm at football, I'm at football. I'm not at football responding to emails or, trying to manage something outside. If I'm working, I'm working. So just being really clear and being present in those moments. And then also, because I have ADHD, I'm a huge list writer. So I write my list, and then I also have to triage of what's the most important, like where can I add value? I need to focus on that, and then like delegating. So having a good team around me that I can delegate things to. And that, that might just be it's also a great learning opportunity for them, make sure they're supported. But if you can get something, even if it's to 80% of where it needs to be, and then I can do the value add at the end sort of thing. So for me though, ensuring I can do that well is making sure they feel supported, which is sometimes can be hard if you're time poor. So I think it's focusing on making sure my team feels supported and I can set them up to succeed, but also make sure they're approaching it as a learning opportunity. Like, I don't expect you to nail this, like let's just have a crack at it, see how we go. And I think that has really helped me empower other people around me, which also then just makes me feel like it takes things off my plate as well, which is really important.
Yeah, wow. I mean, that's really admirable. I mean, the capacity you have.
I don't always nail it, but yeah.
But I mean, like, that's the thing about, trying to strive for success. Like, other people will judge that, but that you've got all these building blocks because it's just natural instincts for you. Like, you've got a routine that you got to do. And what you just said before, it's because you really care. And that's why if you didn't really care, you can easily just go do something else. But the fact is you have so much care and compassion and love for people around you, you want to be accessible. And I guess that's kind of what makes, leaders of today, unique because, it's the fine line of what is balance. I probably dislike that word a lot, balance, because it's just like, to get somewhere, you can't have balance. You know what I mean? You have to... You've got to put all your weight into something to move the needle. Yeah. Like if you were to have balance, you'll get nowhere. Yeah. So, what you just described was just the discipline to stay locked in. Yeah. And that is a real gift. Like you probably don't realize how unique that gift that is that you have. And that's something that I really respect in you is that you've got such high capacity running 2 businesses and actually being a professional athlete. That's pretty... Yeah, that's pretty amazing. And
I like what you say with that. You're right. You can't have total balance. For me, I acknowledge I do have a lot of things that I'm working on, but I also think like one thing is my priority. And at the moment, it's my AFLW career. That has to be my priority because there's only a finite amount of time that I can focus on that. And I also need to recognise I'm not going to achieve everything I want to achieve in those other spheres. Like it's not possible. Because you only have a finite amount of time and you only have a finite amount of focus. So I need to recognise that, I can't do everything I want for Playfair or for Cook and Baker because it means that something else is going to have to give. So I just need to recognise this is the time to focus on this and those things will get done as they get done, but not putting no pressure on myself that the 20 things in my life that are not going perfectly ruins the other 80% of my life because, then that situation has gotten the better of me. So I need to make sure that, I'm still happy and relaxed and flourishing and feeling like I can give in my personal relationships and I'm not like this, letting this stress just, seep out across every part of my life because, then it's not enjoyable. Yeah. It kind of needs to be enjoyable. You need to love life. You need to wake up and, want to get out of bed.
And that's it. And that's something, as I was saying, like, I admire about you that you have such capacity, but you're still present. And that's where, because, you're doing things that actually uplift others. So that kind of ties on to my next question about you wear the hat of being a professional athlete, but then obviously running businesses, but you're also a leader in the two. Are they quite hard? Like, are they quite different in terms of your role as leaders?
Yes, they'd be a little bit different. I think... owning your own business, a lot of other people rely on you and the buck sort of stops with you. So that is a different type of leadership. And there's a different sort of pressure that comes with that. In an AFLW context, I'm not a prescribed leader. You know, I am in the sense, but, you know, I'm not in a leadership group or anything like that. And I think what North Melbourne does really well is we have prescribed leaders, but I guess everyone's sort of a leader. Like you lead in your own way. So they are different in a sense, but yeah, I don't think I feel that pressure of that leadership necessarily. As I said, I'm lucky in that I surround myself with good people that I can bounce ideas off of, and you know, that make me feel supported. And yeah, I think that's also really important.
Yeah, but I mean, like, you know, you got to remember, like, you don't have to be in a
exactly.
group
Yeah, I agree.
to be a leader. You know, it's the aura.
I think that's a privilege, though, right?
Yeah.
Like I feel privileged to feel like I have a level of, you know, influence or a voice that people want to listen to in a leadership sense. So that's a privilege for me. It's not something that, you know, I view as
No, I hear that. In terms of juggling the two, was there one that kind of fed into the other? Like, did you learn a lot from running the businesses and helped you, you know, in terms of like communicating with your teammates, or vice versa, like being with your teammates and then, you know, being in conflict and being able to, you know, converse with like the business side?
I think you take learnings from everything that you do.
Yeah.
I would say that the demographic at football is a lot younger than my team. So that's definitely taught me to like communicate with a younger generation.
Yep.
But it's also, I'm very lucky that both environments have, I've come into contact with people from such varying different paths. So it teaches you that, like, you know, not only to be humble, but just be very open-minded, and to recognise that people will, you know, look, speak, act differently to you, and they all have value, and you can learn from all of those interactions. So, yeah, I think that's been a huge piece of learning for me over, you know, the last 5-10 years, which has been, I think, I reflect on as really valuable.
No, I hear you. And, you know, having the opportunity to be a leader for kinematics, you know, we've got a young team. And it's quite interesting because, you know, a lot of, you know, people these days, you know, leaders, you know, talk about how different the generations are. And I feel quite inspired by that. Yes, it's a challenge, but it's just like, okay, cool. How do we actually engage with them to move forward? Because it's, you can't just keep complaining and blaming that there's a generational difference. No, yes, there may be, you know, that everyone's complaining about work ethic and things like that. I mean, you look at the internet, you know, there's always, you know, captions about
trying to polarize us. Yeah.
Yeah, 100%. And it's just like, okay, cool. So how do we fix it?
Yeah.
You know, rather than complain about it, what's the solution to this? So I always feel inspired by a leader in that way. So for us, it's kind of like, cool, we've got a really diverse team, real young, different backgrounds, and we all look at situations really different. And so what I'm really challenged about is how do we come together and move forward together? You know, that word together, it's something that I get really inspired by because, you know, it's hard. And that's what makes me kind of get up every day. You know, it's like, you know, sometimes I laugh because it's like, far out, how did they think like that? You know, or the way I said something, they took a different context away from it. So it's just like, I'm inspired by the challenge of like trying to lead others, but also be questioned all the time.
Yeah, and that's like a skill of a great leader, is your ability to connect with people no matter what. Like, you find common ground, right? You know, and even if you don't agree on the same things, like, you can still find common ground in the way that you disagree, right? Like in respecting their opinion and you know, still making them feel valued, even though you're not necessarily like mimicking exactly what I think. So I think that's, you know, a skill of a really good leader. Yeah,
there's that quote, just trying to think about who it is. But anyway, the quote's about like, you know, to be a good leader, you know, success is about growing yourself first. And growing yourself is having ownership, being reliable, taking accountability. Yeah. That's the first part of like leadership. And then the next part is actually uplifting others. Yeah. And it's like, it's funny, it's like people forget about the ownership part. It's just like, you're not actually always right. Like my team know that I'm always wrong, but like, always wrong. But like, I'm actually the one that will actually give it a crack. Yeah. I'll take it on the chin. I've learned from it. But it's just like, you need to be in that environment where it's like, you're giving things a go. And that's where I really am grateful having the opportunity of playing like, you know, at a good level of rugby, where I got to play with players that were involved in the All Blacks, and you start to learn that, you know, you got to you got to live in discomfort to grow.
Yeah.
And you got to give things a go all the time. And it's like you're never right. And it's like it's being prepared to that, you know, you've learned from it. Don't make that mistake again, but try and make sure that you can help others.
Yeah. Yeah. It's like that. I love this quote, like I have a lot of strong beliefs, but loosely held, right? So like I'm strong on my beliefs, but if I have information that counteracts that, or someone provides me a different perspective that sort of changes that belief, like I'm not, my identity isn't linked to that. I'm happy to take on that new information and help that shape my new belief, you know?
Yeah.
So I really like that. Yeah.
That's, I love it. And, you know, we connect on so many levels that, you know, I'll make sure that this podcast doesn't go for about 2 hours. Now, speaking of like elite sport, you know, what has like leadership like taught you that people don't understand?
I think leadership can take many different forms, and I have through elite sport come across, you know, so many different types of leadership, and they're all great and beneficial in their own way. The leadership that I have really connected with is probably, like, I guess they're leaders that don't even feel like they're leaders, if that makes sense. You know, like they're just so authentic in themselves, and they might have been put in a position of leadership, and then, you know, and it's not necessarily something they're craving, but I think just like being yourself and bringing people along with you is such a pivotal part of good leadership. And I think also the environments where I see leadership prospering really well is where they're supported really well. So like there's a group, and it's not just like one person above everyone else. You know what I mean? It just feels much more collective. So yeah, I think that's. You don't have to do so much, you know, you don't have to be this incredible, untouchable thing as a leader. You know, you just can be yourself and you can lead in your own way. And I think that's where I've really, like, that's the leadership that resonates with me. I know I haven't like absolutely nailed the description of that, but it's more of a feeling, you know?
I resonate with that. Yeah. And that's what I'm saying. The whole topic leadership is so powerful that it can go so many different ways. But I mean, like, could you give us an example where, let's go last season, you know, you guys were leading into the finals. Was there times where it was like, there was a bit of, I wouldn't say drama, but like, you know, there was things where you guys were in a bit of a rut and then the leader stood up?
There was, I think good leaders lead by example, and it's not necessarily, you got to walk the walk, right? So, we were very lucky last year. We weren't really challenged in a huge number of ways, but we did. We were down. I think it was going into the last quarter of our preliminary final against Melbourne. We were down 10 points, and Jazzy Garner, who's our captain, she just went out and just walked the walk. She just locked in, and she just played this incredible sort of quarter of football where it wasn't like a huge, you know, quarter time speech where you're rivaling everyone else. She just went out and she paved, like, she led the way, right? So I think that's a really good example of just, you know, a leader putting people on their back and just being like, I'm going to do this, you follow me, in that sense. You know what I mean? And she kicked an amazing goal. Go and look at the highlight, guys. I don't know how physically she was able to do it. But yeah, I think that was just a way of, you know, it doesn't need this big kind of like flourishing speech. Yeah. It's like, I do this, and it brings everyone along with you. Just
leads in action. Yeah. No, I can definitely, you know, reflecting back on my time when I looked at this question, I was like, far out. There was times where playing rugby where we were down, and you know, it's the leaders that need to step up. And it's like we had one guy, Gareth Evans. He ended up being an All Black.
I know Gareth Evans.
Like he was, like every time he touched the ball, it was just like, damn, like the aura of him. Like it was just like his body language. He came off the bench because he was playing Super Rugby straight after, and so he had to play minutes, and so we would just happen to be down, and you know, like there's days where you just can't be bothered, and playing in this area of Dunedin in New Zealand is so bloody cold. Like this is an example. I remember ringing out the coach. I actually messaged the coach saying, "Is the game cancelled today?
It's raining."
Freezing. And like, when you're from the North Island, you live down there, you get so much trash. But anyway, back to Gareth Evans. Like, what I really saw him just was his leadership. Like, he was younger than me, and just like the way he came onto the field, how he talked to the players, the belief, like, you know, the aura of like
quiet confidence.
100%. Like you just knew that this guy was going to be an All Black.
Yeah.
I was starstruck when he came out. I was like, damn, like that's the type of leadership quality that you kind of want. And like he came on and just like lifted the energy.
Yeah.
And yeah, we ended up smashing that team. I thought I'd add that part in.
Yeah, we ended up winning that game too. Thanks, Shaz.
But yeah, I mean, like just a classic example of aura, and I felt like I was inspired by that. It was just like, you know, just his presence, and getting to know him as a friend over the years, and just his aura about self-belief, but also helping others. Like he just, with him not realizing he had all the leadership qualities, and that's what made him so unique. He backed himself, and he just knew that he couldn't do it without his team. And just the way he came on, reflecting back, it was just like how he brought all of us together, and just remember that we've only got one shot at this. Let's just like empty the tank. Let's just make sure that we just get the job done. He believed in all of us. He believed in me more than I believed in myself. Like that was the impact he had. But yeah, so those are kinds of people, and I feel like you have that as well. So watching your final, I felt like watching your body language, how you're around your players, even talking to some of the people that know you directly, they were saying the same thing, and so that's something that's very admirable. And you know, you've done so much self work that indirectly it shows in your game.
Yeah.
So that's why I love about, you know, all the work that you do to help your nervous system calm down, because it translates to everything that you touch.
And I think that also, you know, if you have nervous energy in that space, like your teammates pick up on that as well.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
So yeah.
No, I love that. Now tell us, now while we're on obviously on that topic, you know, was there a period that you doubted yourself? And, you know, we can talk about an athlete in business, and what did you learn from that, and how did you get yourself out of that?
I think like there's always periods where we doubt ourselves. I think, you know, like that's human nature. We always have those voices in our heads, whether they're negative or positive or whatever's going on. And for me, like a huge part of, I think, refining like my high performance, whether that's in sport or in business, has been around the work I do with meditation. So my ability to I guess let go of those voices, or not place so much importance on them, you know, it all sort of stems from the work I've done in meditation. And it just so happened that I sought out that practice just before I got drafted into the AFLW, because I recognised there was sort of a gap in my mental aptitude in terms of being able to manage that well, and I just it got to a period of my life where I was like, I feel like meditation could really serve me. So I went and, you know, found a teacher, went every week after work and did a class with him, and sort of developed these building blocks of meditation. And that's something that's a non-negotiable in my routine. I do it every day, at least once, if not twice a day. And for me, that just helps me. It doesn't mean that there's no doubt in my life. There's still doubt. It's just I don't attach importance to it in the same way I think I used to, or maybe other people do. It's, you know, you have those thoughts and you let go of them, right? And you be present in that moment. So absolutely, there's, you know, we bought a business in an industry that we had no subject matter expertise in there. And, you know, there's a lot of risk and uncertainty and doubt in that. But I think I can't focus on those things on a day-to-day, because that's not going to help me achieve my goal. So I think, meditation is the building blocks to which I can challenge feelings of self-doubt.
Yeah, I love that. So you've obviously referenced meditation a few times now. Like, what is it that you get from it?
I get a sense of calm. I get a sense of mental clarity, but I also, you develop the skill of doing it. It's also like a mental bicep curl. It's that ability to calm my mind. Thoughts come into my mind, I can acknowledge that they're there and I can let go of them. So it is like it's strengthening your mental muscle, right? So your ability to attach significance to certain thoughts and not attach it to other thoughts.
Yeah.
And, you know, we have a huge mental health crisis in society at the moment. And I think a lot of that is because we're in such a fast-paced environment and we have a lot of stimuli coming at us, and a lot of that's negative. And we don't have that ability to detach from it, or, you know, to not attach so much importance to it. So, you know, being in control of your mental, the strongest muscle in your body, your mind, is really important. So,
No, I love that. You know, for me, my type of meditation is prayer.
Yeah.
Like everything that I do, I just say a quick prayer. Even before we jumped on the mics, I actually went to the bathroom, said a quick prayer, touched my cross.
Yeah.
And I said, showtime.
Yeah, and it just like centers you, right?
Yeah, and it's crazy. Like people got to find little hacks that brings them back to center.
Yeah, a big one for me is breath, and my partner has taught me like hungi.
Oh yes, yep.
Yeah. So like when I come into her space and I'm all frazzled, we do that together, and it just calms you down.
I love that.
Yeah. So that's like, I love that. It's such a beautiful part of the culture. So yeah.
You must be loving the culture.
I love it. I love it.
Yeah,
I do. I love it.
You know?
It's a beautiful way to live. There's so much community, so much connection to like present, to the moment, to nature.
Yeah.
It's like, it really is, I might be biased, but it's the way we should be living our lives.
Yeah. And that's the real culturalistic, bringing everyone together. And shout out to all the feedback that I got on the podcast where I was saying New Zealand, I should, if I'm going to use whānau or context of our, our people, I should be using the right tone.
Yeah.
So Aotearoa.
Aotearoa, yeah.
So that's...
I always get in trouble because I don't articulate well enough.
No, that's okay. At least you're trying. Yeah. And that's really, and that's all that's about. Now, I really, really love that. Now tell us, you mentioned risk before. Mm-hmm. Now risk is obviously something that, some people can do quite comfortably. They love taking risks, and that's something that you've done with business, but also taking the risk to move all the way from Sydney to be here. I mean, there's a lot of risk here. So I mean, tell us, how did you get through that way of thinking to know that you back yourself to know that you can do it? Yeah,
I think obviously risk, it's all about the perspective in which you look at it as well, right? So there is risk there, but there's also a lot of learning there. And I think I recognize that, I don't know, it's not that I'm very optimistic and nothing's going to go wrong, but, even if something does go wrong, what's the worst thing that's really going to happen? It's nothing that I can't come back from, let's put it that way. In that I'm very lucky. I live in a beautiful country in Australia. I have support of my family and my friends. In the scheme of things, I don't attach so much importance to that risk that it stops me doing something, that it creates an inertia that I won't take on that challenge, because I think for me, what I value in life is experiences and personal growth and development, and the way that we do that is by challenging ourselves, and that will involve taking risk. Yeah. I also think, in terms of business decisions and things like that, there's a way of mitigating that risk. So, before we bought the business that we bought in an industry that we don't know much about, we did a lot of analysis to understand the position of that business, spoke to people that we trusted, whose, analysis and insights we valued and we thought would be accurate. And then you kind of make a bit more of an informed decision, and you go into it recognizing that, there'll be a lot of learnings out of it. And we made heaps of mistakes. We owned that business for 18 months, made so many mistakes. But, the mentality in which you go into them is, learning. It's all around continuous improvement and learning, and and not taking anything too seriously. And Yeah,
and that's where I can really resonate with you, is that, it's like to move from A to B, you have to take risks.
Totally.
And it baffles me that people, a lot of risks is people's time. I mean, you just mentioned before, your calendar is full. And it's just like, there's no balance in that, to your average. But for you, that's just normal.
Yeah.
And, it's like you see problems as opportunities. And that's where having that leadership mindset, you look at opportunities. And so, I definitely can resonate with you on that.
Like, you would have made so many mistakes through
everything.
I know, and how much of would have you've learned out of all of those things that you can then, pass on, to other people around you, and even as part of this podcast, right? So,
Oh, big time. And as I was saying, and I've said it a few times in podcasts, and obviously before with you, I'm always making mistakes, and it's actually just taking ownership and having some accountability to learn and be reliable. Like those, as I said, I use aura. That's really important to me. Those are key values for me to make sure that I show up. Why? Because it knows that it allows people to see that I'm giving things a go. And so for me, people like my wife is always giving me a hard time. She's like, man, you're such a big risk taker. But for me, it's just like, I look at this, you said it before, we're really privileged to live in Australia. Like us Kiwis come over here because of opportunity.
Yeah.
So for me, it's like, why would I come here and chill out? Like, there's even Bible context where it talks about, be useful in this world. Like your role is to make sure that you create something so that you can leave for the next generation. So I feel empowered by that.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think like, we touch on leadership a lot, and I think one of the big qualities of being a good leader is your ability to pave the way when the path is unclear. So your ability to make decisions when there's a lot of uncertainty. And I look at my mum who's run her business for a long period of time in through a lot of uncertainty. And for her, I see she does take risks, but they're calculated risks in the sense that she'll go and talk to people. If she doesn't feel like she has the knowledge, she'll build that IP by, speaking to the right people around her. And then she'll take a risk, but she won't over-index.
Yeah.
So she'll pilot it. It'll be a smaller pilot program and it doesn't necessarily mean that it needs to be completely built out and you need to have the answers to everything. But you pilot it and then you can develop that service or product around it, right? You can fine tune that as you go along, and it's like anything. It'd be like this podcast. The first episode is going to look a lot different to the 100th episode. So, but you don't want to not do the podcast because you're not confident that the first episode is going to. You just got to get going, like get moving, and you're going to learn and you're going to develop, and it's going to get better.
Yeah, and what you just said there is bang on. Like, for me, I like to just get things started, like do it, and just learn on the go. Like I'm probably not someone. This is where some of my leadership team give me a hard time where I don't like stop, analyze, and think of everything. Like for me, I quickly analyze all the risks, and then I make sure that the benefits outweigh the risks, and then I back myself.
Yeah.
So yes, safety is obviously the important part. Making sure that I don't burn anyone. Making sure that no one's going to get hurt. Those are the first things I analyze. And then when I know that the opportunity is way bigger than that, then I'm like, cool, you can't stop me. And I'll make sure that I learn as I go. I won't get it right, but it's just trying to. It's funny because it's trying to get people to think like that.
But it's also having the right people around you that you think like that, but maybe they think slightly different, and maybe it just pulls you back a little bit in here and it goes a little bit there, and that's what you need, right? You need people who are going to challenge you and think differently to you, and surrounding yourself with those sort of people so that you maybe end up the initial product is a little bit more refined than what it would have been if it was just you. So I think,
I definitely can connect on that. And there's, my wife is very numbers driven, and she can go numbers all day.
Love that.
Where she'll challenge me and she'll say, tell me the numbers. But I'm such a I visualize and I think, no, I know the product will do the talking. You put the numbers.
And you need both of those, right? Like absolutely.
It's so for us, like
visionary, detail orientated.
Massive. It's like us trying to run, this clinic is that it's given us the opportunity to help others, but also you mentioned about identifying a gap that can inspire you. For us, you would hear practitioners, they only stay in the game for about 5 to 6 years. So I feel really empowered to, how do we change that? So rather than talking about it, for us, we feel, cool, let's actually start something where we can actually get people together. Let's see if we can move the needle and change healthcare by keeping people in. Don't lose practitioners.
Yeah, don't burn them out. Yeah.
Exactly. And so that's what we feel really driven to try and improve the model. And so, but we can't do it alone. We feel inspired when we meet other leaders like yourself. So that's why it's really important to have these sessions, this type of podcast, because there'll be people out there grinding away, trying to find hope and inspiration. And, here you are. There's people like you that are actually working really hard. It's not easy. We're like you, trying to give things a crack. Yeah.
I'm sure I'm going to learn so much from listening to the other episodes of this podcast and all the other interesting people that you're interviewing. So it's great.
We've been really grateful, and some of I've learned so much about myself, and even doing this, even just preparing for you. I feel really grateful, and I feel like we're really just so insightful hearing how you look at leadership and how you run your business. This ties on to my next question about, I guess, sacrifices. Tell me, some of the, big moments where you've had to really sacrifice big things to be where you are.
Yeah, I was having a think about this. As I sort of touched on, it took me a little bit of time to get into professional sports. So I was actually driving over here and I was like, wow, like there was actually a lot of times where I didn't sacrifice. You know, when I was in my teens, I could have trained on with the New South Wales Institute of Soccer, and a lot of those girls are Matildas, current Matildas or were Matildas. And, you know, I decided that I wanted to go on holiday with my family instead. I got invited to train with the Australian 17 when I was in my mid-20s. It was, I think, 2015. They went on to win the gold medal at the Rio Olympics in 2016. So, but I wanted to go on exchange to Europe. So, you know, I wanted to have that experience and travel the world and do all these things. So, like, there's times where I haven't sacrificed as well. And I think, you know, I need to acknowledge that. But when I really needed to crack down and wanted to make that jump into AFLW and professional sport, because you've got to be all in. Then for me, like, the sacrifices were obviously moving away from my family and my friends in Sydney. And, you know, you miss a lot of those at my age, like weddings, big milestone birthdays, things like that. But I don't really see them as sacrifices. I guess I just see them as, you know, they're part of the journey. I don't really feel like I've sacrificed, if that makes sense. The only sacrifice I would say is, and we touched on this, is you can only really prioritize one thing at one time really well. So for me, that's AFLW. So maybe the sacrifice is my ability to flourish in business at the moment. But I also recognize there's only a finite amount of time to do that. So I look forward to that next stage of my life where I can dedicate myself wholly to those things and to see, you know, how I can move the needle in those areas. So, yeah, it's not necessary. It's like delayed gratification. Let's look at it like that, not sacrifice.
No, I love that, and you know, people need to hear that. Like, you know, it's you know, sacrifice can mean different things. You know, to a lot of people. So, you know, for us, it's you know, just having the opportunity to run a business is crazy. Like, we feel really grateful, but it comes with its pros and cons. For us, you know, we've missed out on a lot of weddings, and a lot of really special key moments that we've chosen. But, you know, for us, as we touched on earlier, you know, we're trying to prove a model, and, you know, legacy is quite an important, that word is quite special to us because it's part of our values. We're trying to pioneer healthcare where we're trying to create something that's quite unique, and that's no disrespect to those who have gone before us or that are still here. But we're just trying to do something different. Like, as I touched on earlier, that there's an actual gap in the market where we're losing practitioners because they're not seeing the you know, the pathway for them to see that it's an investment for them. So for us, we sacrifice everything to be here, you know, and it's like, for us, you know, I've had to sacrifice some pretty big jobs, you know, where it's money versus legacy. Now, legacy, yes, you get rewarded, but, you know, when you're trying to create something that's benefiting everyone, you're paid last. It's kind of like the book about leaders eat last. It's the same thing of, like, when you're trying to serve others, that's kind of like what our model is actually based on. So, that's a little bit what we're trying to pull off.
And I think I learned at quite a young age that chasing money over other things that I valued wasn't going to serve me long term. Yeah. So I worked at two very big you know, Australian corporations before I moved into working with Playfair. And they, you know, they're wonderful businesses, but they weren't really what,
your values.
You know, it didn't align with my values. It didn't get me out of bed in like a energetic and meaningful way. So, and I realized that, you know, money wasn't going to make me happy necessarily. And, you know, I've adopted that in now every decision I make around my career. You know, I've left a lot of money on the table even in AFLW, which doesn't have a huge amount of like pool, but I never made a decision around who I wanted to play for based on money. And I feel like that has served me really well. And I'm glad that I learnt that lesson at a young age because, I know that that's something that doesn't fulfill me. Yeah.
No, I love that, and that's really good for all of us to hear that because it's one of those things. Sometimes you got to go through it to actually learn, though. So for you to tell that, I admire you for doing that. Now, for those that are listening and watching, you know, tell us, is there key essential skills that you feel like is really important to be a good leader and also a business owner?
I think we touched on it a little bit earlier. Is that that ability to make decisions when there's uncertainty, and for me, that kind of ties into also having a level of self-awareness, right? So your ability to know what your strengths are and what your weaknesses are, and then surround yourself with people who complement you. I think that's also incredibly important. And then obviously your ability to delegate. You know, you can't do it all. So you need to have trust in the people around you. And then, you know, those pivotal ones, which is around like your ability to be a good listener and be a good communicator. I feel like that, you know, is the foundation for, you know, any good leader, any good employee, or anything really, partner. So they're probably my big sort of 3, I would say.
Yeah, I love that.
Yeah.
I love that.
Yeah, and then obviously as we move into, you know, a more tech world, is having, you know, genuine care, emotional intelligence, you know, seeing your employees or, you know, as people, not, you know, employees or your teammates, and they do that really well at North Melbourne. You're a person before you're an athlete. So your ability to see people and connect with them on a genuine level, I think that's really important in terms of, you know, building that kind of collective vision and that collective buy-in.
Yeah. No, I'm with you on that. For me, it's connection.
Yeah.
Like I feel like getting to know someone intentionally is such a beautiful gift. You know, I'm still trying to craft that. But
Totally,
I mean, like,
same.
it's one of those things where you can always be better on. But I love the challenge of trying to meet someone that's really awkward, where we're complete opposites. Where I just love trying to, you know, get to know them, and when they're giving you like one word answers, you're like, okay, cool. This is going to be a good.
And then when you crack them, boy, does it feel good.
100%. You know, and but yeah, you know, connections are important. You know, it's like it's kind of like that saying, but you know, connections are your net worth. And so that for me as a leader and business, they're really synergistically together. Yeah. So, you know, making time for people, and actually for me, I put a lot of value in terms of taking people out for coffees. Yeah. You know, shouting. You know, even a really good skill people can work on. For those that are trying to build a connection hub and build your reputation, is actually building around faith, and not faith. Well, you can use faith if those who are non-believers of Christianity, but it's building trust. Yeah, you know, and it's making time for people. Yeah, and so even just like taking someone out for a coffee and getting to know them, that hits different. Yeah, making them feel seen, valued. I like that. Yeah, so that's probably a big one, and then from there, the world's your oyster because you've opened them up. They now see that you actually give a damn about them, and you're actually invested into them. Yeah, they're part of your, you know, we call it whānau, or your community. No, I love that. Now, we can talk all day, but we obviously are getting close to time now. Before we get to the next question, I'm going to give you a bit of a little exercise game now that your brain's kind of warmed up. This is like a quick fire of questions that kind of describe who you are. Yeah. Okay, so are you ready? Yeah. Sweating. Yeah. Our first question. Okay. One word your teammates would use to describe you. Competitive. Love it. One word your business partners would use to describe you. I'd say direct. Direct. Yeah. Best piece of leadership advice you've ever received. I think the most fulfilling form of leadership is when you can help others achieve. And that's Adam Grant. I got it on a podcast. He didn't say it to me directly, but love it. Love it. Should have taken it. I am taking it. He was speaking directly to me. The athlete you most admire and why? I think a bit generic, but like LeBron James, just because he was able to just be at the top of his game for such a long period of time. And also I was obsessed with his meditation series on Calm. Yeah, okay. So like I know he buys so into like his his mind. Yeah. Yeah, my guy's Michael Jordan. Yeah, I did read his book. He's really this is all about you. I love that. Okay, one habit you refuse to compromise on. Meditation daily. Yeah. A book, podcast, or resource that has shaped your thinking. So I'm really, really into A Diary of the CEO at the moment. So Stephen Bartlett. I do a lot of driving, so podcast, and I love the variety in terms of subject matter he has on there, and he's just such a good interviewer in terms of like
asking these great questions that really pull it out. So I like that. I like the variety. You know, I want to know a lot about everything. So yeah, he's great. And then the other one would be Adam Grant. He's a behavioral psychologist, and he's written a few really good books. Yeah.
Speaking about the podcast, it's amazing. He's got such a gift at making dumb questions real big questions.
Yeah, or really, really difficult questions. He's really good at like synthesizing them down in a way that can simply be explained to like such a broad audience.
Oh, love that. Now, my last question here for those out there. This is for young athletes. What's a bit of advice you'd give them?
A bit of advice. So much. I think the big one is you've really got to love what you do, right? So, you got to love what you do because you've got to have the buy-in. And I think the other thing is, like I always say this, like life is it's a wave.
Yeah.
You just got to ride the wave, you you just got to enjoy that. Enjoy riding the wave because, we only get one wave. Yeah. So I think that's a big one for me. Like I hope there's a lot that they could have taken out of this podcast in terms of, tools and techniques and things like that. But yeah, at the end of the day, just you got to enjoy it. So do something that you're going to enjoy and lock in.
No, I love that. Yeah. And honestly, thank you so much for your time. That was so insightful getting to know you as a human behind the athlete and the business owner. And, I took a lot out of that. I can't thank you enough for this opportunity. And, for those that are watching, listening, continue to follow, follow an amazing athlete that we have here. She's going to, changing the world in terms of from an economic standpoint as well. I've taken a lot from you, so I can't thank you enough.
No, I've loved being on here. Thank you so much.
All the best for this season. We'll be cheering you on, my friend.
I know, we're going to get you to a game. Fangirling, get the pom-poms out.
Oh, I love it. Thank you, guys. And again, thank you for everyone for the support. It's a much loved here at PepTalks. Again, thanks to all the crew behind the scenes. My boy Padula, of course. Our goal is to make sure I can interview The Rock next year. So tag him, follow him. And God bless. Thank you.
Thanks.